And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Fred. Um, just a second now. Oh, let's go in here. Okay, Fred was born in Nipigon, Ontario, on the shores of Lake Superior. Oh my goodness, somebody's phoning me and they can't get into the Zoom. Just a second. Hello, Anchoret.
Hi,
I'm
Anchorage.
going to send you the link again. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, we're going to have to be a little bit informal. Anchoret doesn't have the link. So, all right. Just
Harry, one of the things, the link that lets us in is the link that started off with Tim last week.
yes.
And it doesn't say that this is the link for every speaker in the series.
Okay.
So that might be confusing to some people.
Oh, okay. Well, Alexis did send it out again.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, she sent,
Yeah.
or maybe
Recently?
Yeah.
I don't hope she didn't.
Was it?
Yeah. I don't know what she's.
I did. I scheduled a series, the whole series under the same link. So this may be a problem for some people, or Anchoret may have been waiting to get it, but she would have gotten it. Okay, so now it may take a minute to send.
What do we have to?
Anchoret's very important here. She's a founder of Mira.
Yes. Yeah.
So we want her to be here, and she has some real problems with vision. She's visually impaired. So we want her to be able to get in and hear the whole thing. But I can read more about Fred while we're waiting for Anchoret to show up, because she knows all this. So Fred had 15 siblings, and they were all recognized in school for their artistic flair. High school in the US led to success in drafting and prizes in competitions sponsored by the Illinois Institute of Technology. And Fred honed his skills over 2 years at the Chicago Academy of Fine Art, which provided a solid introduction to painting techniques. On his return to Canada in 1970, Fred attended the well-known Three Schools in Toronto. That's the name of the school, Three Schools.
Yeah, it was the three schools were the Hockley Valley Summer School, the New School of Art, which I was in, and also the Hockley Valley Summer School. Oh, no, the Purelix Theater. That was the third one, the Purelix Theater. So that made up the three schools.
And when you were in Toronto, or through, you were a policeman for a while, and you were doing art at this was after you graduated, right?
Oh yeah,
as a policeman, and worked on your art throughout. So you graduated from the three schools, and then went on, and throughout the years, Fred has joined many art organizations and kept active in the art world while working at other jobs, from policeman to shelf installer. Currently, he's a member of the Rideau Lakes Artists Association, and for 6 years, he served as president of that. And he also chairs their annual Paint the Summer show and sale in Westport. All right. So that's everything I have to say. And I'm going to turn it over to Fred. And I think it actually is recording now. So I will make Fred prominent here. I'm going to pin you. Make co-host. Well, no, pin. There we go. All right. You have the spotlight, Fred.
okay. I got two spotlights on me here.
And just tell me when you want me to start showing the slides, okay?
Yeah, okay. Just to go over part of the introduction and everything, I had lived in the United States for 9 years. We had a tragedy in the family, and our family had to move down there, and I lived in a residential school ran by the Moose Lodge. And during that time, I got a pretty good education, and I did have a small scholarship at the end of high school, and that's when I went to the Chicago Academy of Fine Art. And I I'm a very loyal Canadian, and I always wanted to return to Canada. And so I did return in 1970 when I found a school that would accept me. Because I applied to a lot of Canadian schools, and the educational level was much higher in Canada than it was in the United States. So you had to have that grade 13 or the equivalent to get into the Canadian schools. And so that sort of held me up. But anyway, when I went to three schools, I started working. I ended up working at Molson's Breweries. I worked there for 5 years, and I was doing my artwork, painting maybe 4 or 5 paintings a year. And then I got into the police force. I got into the police force when they were hiring two-man police cars for the midnight shift. And I had never got in trouble or anything, and I got on the police force, and I found I loved the job. And it was a lot of fun. And during that time, I took a watercolor course at York Art Gallery in Aurora, Ontario. And at the end of the course, we had a student show, and I did sell a painting, and it got me hooked. So I really got more active into the art field, and I started joining a lot of the other groups. And while I was a police officer, I would run my own art shows, and I would make up my own invites and everything, and I would host the art show with an opening. And I usually at the Cedar Ridge Studio, there was another gallery called the Labova Gallery, and I did shows there as well. And I did sell a lot of artwork, and I was really heavy into painting watercolors. And I really enjoyed that. And I met one of my artist friends, and her husband was a police officer, and I knew him as well. And she introduced me to monotypes. Now, monotypes are a little odd. They are considered an original print, and monotype means a singular print that cannot be duplicated or repeated. Because what you do is you paint on a hard surface like glass or stone, and you transfer the ink to a paper. And if you do it again, it's a lost medium technique. So you would be losing your ink every time you made a print. And I played around with this quite a bit, and I had a lot of fun. And there are some of them, those pictures in the, I think in the stuff that you have there. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. And then I got involved in a few other things. While I was a police officer, I got bought this property where we are up here in Snow Road, and they had the back roads, or no, it wasn't back roads. It was called Inroad Studio Tour, and it was basically centered out of Sharbert Lake. And I met a lot of the local artists here, and got involved with them. And that's probably where Gene met me and bought that painting of mine, which I still remember and love. But anyway, I did enjoy selling the art and doing these art shows and everything else, and being involved in the art clubs and everything else. I live here in two doors over from where we first bought our property here in Snow Road, in what was once the Frontenac Creamery. It was basically a great big square concrete building, 30 feet square, and they made unsalted butter here during the 30s to the 50s. And it was in pretty rough shape when I bought it, and I ended up renovating it. And then during that time, I ended up getting another job. I retired from the police force. I got a very, very nice pension, and I started doing work. I went to work for two of my brothers down in the States that ran a shelving operation, which went to different stores, and they installed shelves in the stockroom and out in the floor. And they hired me to do the Walmart stock rooms up here in Canada when Walmart first moved up to Canada. And so I would go into a Walmart on a Monday morning and I'd meet up with about 20 people that worked for Walmart. And by Friday afternoon, we'd have the whole stock room filled with shelving. And the specialty shelving was one that was on a movable base. I enjoyed that job. It got me to travel around. I traveled all over Canada, which I probably wouldn't have done otherwise, and really enjoyed it. And while I was traveling, I was always taking pictures. I was really impressed with our landscape up here in Canada, and especially here in Ontario. And when digital photography came around, it was even better. After the shelving job, I did end up working as a paralegal in the Ontario Courts of Justice, where I would be fighting traffic tickets. I was sort of like on the dark side. If you were a police officer, you'd notice that. But anyway, it was a very good business. I was making nice money, and that's when I did most of the renovations here. And I did, around that time, I did get involved with the Rideau Lakes Artists Association. It was a great bunch of people. My wife, Sarah, was involved with it. She is an artist too, and she belonged to the Rideau Lakes, and I joined with her after about a year or so, and I really enjoyed that group. It's a very progressive group. Right now, we have around 100 members, and we do meet once a month for a general meeting. And I see Donna McPhail's name is up there. She's one of our members too. Hi, Donna. Anyway, we have paint-ins every Wednesday where we go to a community center and we paint for the afternoon. And a lot of us get involved in that. And that's how this group got formed. And I really, really enjoyed being in the group. And then one day they needed somebody to be a vice president, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And 2 months later, I was the president, and I managed to juggle everything that I was doing at the same time. Like when I was going to court and things like that, I could always juggle what I was doing. And then anyway, that worked out quite well. And after a while, I got out of the paralegal business, and a couple of years later, I ended up. I'm on one of the town councils. I'm North Frontenac. I'm a councilor at North Frontenac, and right now I'm also a counselor with the Frontenac County. So I manage to juggle everything around, because when I'm doing something, whether I'm painting or whether I'm doing a meeting or involved in some other thing, I can easily switch back and forth, and I'm glad I can do that. My painting, what I paint nowadays is I paint a lot of acrylic. I progressed from the monotype painting and went into oil painting. And then right now I'm at the stage where I'm working on acrylic paintings, and I'm trying to work on high realism. I think if you're able to uh, do any kind of painting, you should be able to do some realistic artwork, and that's what I'm concentrating on right now. Anyway, that's all I can say right now. If you want to start showing some of the pictures, and I can talk about the pictures.
Okay, I'm gonna open up an album here. I'm gonna share my screen. So do we want to look at the sold art first?
Sure, let's look at that.
Okay, now I need to hide this, put it over here. You can't see what I'm moving here, but I can. Okay, and
Can you look at them individually?
yes, I'm going to
Okay.
start the slideshow. I just had to move the things that were in the way.
Okay.
Oh, and you see
Um,
the boat on the water there. Oh, it's
yeah.
okay. I'll go back.
Okay.
Wait a second now. Oh, it's got this pencil thing in the way. There.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a commission. I call it the Red Boat for obvious reasons. But my cousin Fred Fowler, another one, He was down east, and our family hails from Nova Scotia, and he had taken three photographs, and the boat was in one of them. And he wanted me to paint this picture. This picture is quite large. It's about 20 by 40 inches thereabouts. And this is what I come up with the pictures that he gave me. And I twigged the things a little bit. I made it an evening or a late night with the moon, and it turned out quite well. It was a commission for him, and he was ecstatic when he saw it. He just loved it, and so it now hangs in Woodstock, Ontario. And go to the next one. This is a watercolor when I was back in the day doing a lot of watercolors, and I really enjoyed doing that. This third one here is the piece of art that I sold in that student art show when I took the watercolor course. And it's kind of hard to take some of these pictures because they're under glass. One of the things, downfalls of having watercolor paintings is that you have to mount everything on mat board and then hide it behind glass. And when you take a picture of it, you get a lot of other reflections. But this one sold, and I was really happy about that. That's the one that got me hooked into trying to be more professional with my art. And this here is called Evening Fluke. It's an oil painting. Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, it's called Evening Fluke, and I bought a book on whales one time, and I just was amazed by these humpback whales. And this is one that I came up with. I made it up mostly just using the book more for references, and this is a painting that I came up with, and I really enjoyed it. And when surprise, surprise, one of my sisters out west bought it, and she just loves it. And this painting, this is the Chicago skyline. When I went to art school in Chicago, the building that's there is called the John Hancock Center. And this is part of the Chicago skyline looking south from the expressway, the Lakeshore Expressway. And this is what I took a photograph of that, and that's what I came up with. And there's my whale again. Yeah, my sister got this one too. I've done a couple of these, but this is the first one I did, and I just really enjoyed this picture with the light, the whole lighting and everything else, and it turned out quite well. I was really happy with it. And I used to fly airplanes. I had airplanes when I was working at Molson's back in the day, and so anyway, this here is an F-18 jet, and it's flying above the clouds, and it's something that I made up. I had a model of the jet, and that's what I used as a reference. And this here is a sleeping giant. We were up in the wintertime, and I took this picture of the sleeping giant from where the Terry Fox Monument is. And it was a beautiful shot, and I had it hung on to it for a while, the photograph, and then I finally painted, and that's what I got from it. And I did sell that painting to somebody at one of my art shows. And this here is I took up skiing too, so a lot of the stuff I paint is what I've done or been involved in, and I did a lot of skiing. Mind you, I wasn't that great of a skier that I would tackle a hill like this. But this was an oil painting. And what I did playing around with techniques is if the painting was upside down, I took spirits and oil paint and I drizzled it down the side to make the impression of the background. Then I went back into the painting after it dried and added the skier. And that one sold to somebody that had a ski shop. And this year is I really like being a police officer working at night a lot. So I always really like looking at night scenes. And then this is one of the night scenes that came up with, and somebody liked it and bought it at the art show as well. But I like playing with with light and how it works in the dark. And this here is called On the Beaver Pond. Not too far from where I live, south of Highway 7, there's a big beaver pond, and I went out on it in the wintertime, and it had a lot of heron nests up in the trees. The herons would build just a whole bunch of sticks stuck halfway up the tree. And but anyhow, this scene caught my eye, and this is when I had digital camera, and I actually laid down in the snow and took this photograph, and I converted it to a painting, and it turned out really well. I actually just redid it this year, but one of my neighbors bought that, and this year's is 40 by 60, so it's a good size painting. And there it is. There's Jean's painting.
Oh,
Yeah. And that's 40 by 60 as well. And I did a lot of work trying to get those shadows right. And it just turned out one of my favorite paintings too, Jean. I really enjoyed that one. I'm glad you got it. And it has a great home. And this one, this is not far from where I live right now. Oop,
so sorry.
that's okay.
It just goes on.
This was a time when there was a lot of large forest fires up in Quebec, and a lot of the smoke was hanging around our area. And it gave a great sense of atmosphere, and that's what attracted me to this. And this is just one of the little swamps on the side of the road, and I decided I'd paint it, and it's turned out. I gave this to one of my nieces for her wedding, and she still has it. She enjoys it. And this one is I was up moose hunting north of Lake Superior in October, and sometimes in October it's like winter. And we had a big snowstorm, and this is one of the pictures I took. And I hung on to this picture for quite a while. And it's a 30 by 30 high by 24 wide. And anyway, I put it on Facebook. And one of my neighbors around here saw it, and they bought it, and they just loved it. And this here is a painting that I did from a life drawing. I actually have the charcoal drawing of that model there, but I was playing around with acrylics. I did this in acrylics, and I added a little bit of a extra design to it. And the painting's gone now, but it was one of my favorite. And this here is a little sunset painting that I did. It was not far from where that foggy, smoky scene was. Anyway, I got I just loved how the sun was setting and everything else. And this is one of the first paintings I did experimenting with some of the older techniques. When you do a tree against a silhouette like that, you paint it with blue and red paint, and it makes the tree actually vibrate. And it's a technique that I learned from that, and the person who owns that really loves that as well. Now, this is a scene off of my hometown, Red Rock, Ontario. I was born in Nipigon, and I lived in a little town called Red Rock. I was up there in the fall, and this would be Vert Island, or Green Island, they call it, across Nipigon Bay. And this is where I tried to make nature look like nature and try to catch all of the better parts of it. And that one sold. I think somebody from up that way did buy it. And working with my cameras, I did belong to the Lanark County Camera Club. And the reason I joined that was because I wanted to make sure I was taking good pictures and for my artwork. And so I got into taking a lot of macro pictures, and I call this, people generally ignore small places. And I found that if you look close in small places and see these different things, you come up with these beautiful paintings. And my neighbor owns this one, and this is a couple dried up old oak leaves. So when I was doing my paralegal work, I would have most of my work done by 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'd drive from that area wherever I was at court, and I would go and take pictures on the way home. And this is one of them I took like that. And I really enjoyed this one. Same with this one. Actually, the same neighbor owns this one too. And I just love the sumacs and how great they are in the fall, especially. The brilliant colors that come from are amazing. And this here is another one getting up close. This is one of those trees that have these real floppy leaves, and then the leaves has sort of fallen apart and deteriorated in the fall. And I just love the way it hung and everything else. And I blurred the background like you would in a macro type photograph. And this is another close up of just some snow up against the trees and frost on the background trees. And that one sold. Somebody really liked it, and off it went. And night scenes and everything else. This here is I made this painting up, but I used references. And believe it or not, last week I was in Toronto and I went to where this painting was done. And the building with the big window is a Garden Gate restaurant. I lived a block or so from there when I worked at Molson's Breweries back in the day. And I used to go to this restaurant a lot. And the nickname of the restaurant, and you can Google it, it's called The Goof. And what had happened is the sign said good food, and some of the lights were burned out, and it said The Goof. And then across the street is the Fox Theater. And I used to go to the Fox Theater a lot because it was close by and that. And then thinking back on my police times working on the midnight shifts and things like this, I wanted to catch the reflection of the streetcars because that's down on Queen Street by the beaches. And then I did add, it's hard to see, but there's a lady walking across the street carrying a white grocery bag. And so it's just a whole combination of different things. But the reflection, I just really wanted to capture that. Now, I was painting in acrylic most of the time. When I did this, I ended up doing it in oil. And the reason I went to oil was because oil is a lot easier to blend because it stays wet longer. And it just takes a lot longer to produce a painting. So I did switch over to oil just to do this one painting to get it the way, and it worked out quite well. And I had it in the show. I belong to a real small art group. We do a show, a pop-up gallery every other year in Toronto. And what we do is we rent a gallery for the day, and we go into the gallery. We do the gallery at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we hang all of our pictures, and there's about 6 or 8 of us in the group, and we all can hang a couple paintings. And this is the only photograph I have of this painting. I'm glad I got it because that night, the first night we had that opening there, one of the local people from Toronto came in and bought it off of me. And I was really happy how this one turned out. And this here is a sleeping giant again. I got to credit my wife. She took this picture. This was taken in the fall. And when I would go up moose hunting with my brothers, we'd go up moose hunting. And she'd come along with me and stay with her girlfriend in Thunder Bay. And she took this picture. And then I just loved how it looked. And I ended up painting this picture. It's a 36 by 36 square. And, it captured the whole thing. And that's where the sunrise is like in the morning. And I just loved how the sunrise was just above the chest of the sleeping giant. And one of my neighbors up here had bought it for his son. I had it in a restaurant down by in Maberly. And I know where it is. If I need to visit it, I can visit it. But one of my favorite paintings. And this here is another painting from my scenes up when I'm moose hunting. I go up moose hunting, and the moose are quite safe because I was always taking pictures and that. And this is a little lake uh, high on a ridge. And I took this painting picture and another one I painted in oil just to get the effects that I wanted. And this is another trip going up north. This is, we call this Pebble Beach. This is located 60 kilometers north of the Sioux. And I spent a lot of time. This is another one of those 40 by 60 paintings, and I really enjoyed this area here. These black rocks stick right out into Lake Superior, and the rocks nearby on the beach are all rounded. They're just almost perfectly round. And my wife and I, when we go up there, we usually come home with about a dozen or so of these rounded rocks. But it's just one of those beautiful spots on Lake Superior. And I had this in a art gallery that used to be at Balderson's, and the girl that was running the art gallery bought my painting. She loved it. So, you know, it's got a good home. And I think she was involved in one of the house tours in Perth, and she had it hanging on the wall, and Sarah and her cousin were going through, and she saw it there. So that's where it is. One of my favorite spots. It really is. When my daughter told me that my first grandson was coming, it was at this location where she showed me the picture of her of the fetus. It was just a real special spot. And this here is there's a family from the Snow Road area. It's called the Abrams family. There's two brothers that won a lot of awards for bluegrass down in the States and Kentucky and places like that. And this is one of the brothers, and they put on a little show here in Snow Road. And so what I did was I was in there with my camera taking pictures and pictures, and I came up with this one. This is a 12 by 36 painting, and I had to squeeze all that in there. And I just really enjoyed doing this painting. I showed it to his father, and they just thought it was great. But a young guy at one of the art shows spotted it, and then he bought it. And when people buy a painting, I don't mess around. They can have it. I'll make sure they get it if they really want it. And this one turned out really nice. And I was up in the Bon Echo Park art show, and I was amazed at Bon Echo Park because when you're up there in the summertime, you look across the water at this great big Mazenal rock. And I might even have a picture of that in here too. But there are pictographs on the rocks out there, and one of them is a creature that has rabbit ears, and it's known as Nanabush or Nanabuzo. And it's a special Indian god. And this painting is the natives Indians are out by the rock at night putting the pictograph on the rock. And so we got a canoe there, a birch bark canoe, and they got their torches, and one guy is painting the picture. And inside this picture, going all the way up the paddle, and I did paint a lot of paddles. I enjoyed painting these paddles. I get seconds from a company that makes them, and I just covered the whole paddle with the paintings. And this one turned out really well. It was one of my favorite. And this here I call the Blackwater swan, rather. We do have trumpeter swans up here in our area, and they show up every now and again. And I was driving down the road and right beside the Mississippi River, and there was two swans there, and they were dunking in the water and everything else. And I stopped, and I got this picture of this guy, and he just looked away. And so I made up the rest of the painting with the swan in it, and I call it Blackwater Swan because the water is just black as you could believe, you know. But the reflection is there and everything. I really enjoyed that. And this here is on one of my trips coming home from my court job. This location is up by Renfrew, north of Renfrew. and this line squall come through. It was just a big black cloud moving really strong. And I lined myself up with this old barn and on the side of the road, and I snapped the picture. And this is pretty well what it looked like. This is my rendition of this. And I did this one in acrylic. And this here is called Clear Cut 2. And this is when I'm up moose hunting. A lot of the area had paper mills. Most of them are closed now. But they would go up and they would clear cut large stretches of land. And this tree was one that was saved, but the rest of them are second growth, the trees in the back. And I just caught this. My brother was driving. And I says, line the car, take it up there, stop right there. And I got up and took the picture. And there we're back at the beginning there. Are you going to go back to the other set?
Excuse me. Sorry, I was muted. Talking away there.
How am I doing here? Am I okay?
Great. You're doing great. And it's 7:38 p.m. We're doing just fine. You're
Oh,
going
good.
through at a good clip. Um, okay. Jean, did you want to talk for a second about you'll have to unmute yourself if you want to talk about that picture while I'm getting set up with the next one.
So before Fred started his presentation, and we were just early in chit-chatting, I own the picture that is in the winter scene with all the trees and it's going forward. And what really spoke to me and my husband Jim was we are cross-country skiers. And this picture, which is, it's large. I don't know what the dimensions are, but it's big. And it was just, we sit and we look at this picture and we just think we would like to put our skis on and go there. So there's a story, and that's what they say about paintings, is the best paintings are the paintings that allow you to create the story. So this for us creates the story of, oh my gosh, like there's shadows, there's sun, we could put on our skis and we could just head in that direction and go forever. Like that painting just brings us great joy. Yeah, we love it. We love it.
I'm glad you like it. And when you were just talking, I'm just thinking back when I took that picture for the painting, and I think I was out cross country skiing with my wife at the time. Believe it or not, we were down by Brockville when that happened. Anyway,
All
are
right.
you ready for me, Carrie?
Just getting this slideshow started. Okay.
All right.
How about this one?
Yeah, this one here is very similar to the first one that we started off with. It's the red boat and everything. And this is a little 12 by 12 painting I did just afterwards. And I still have it for sale.
Yeah, the
I
one in this
tried to
collection
get the moon in the water and get a couple of the old fish huts and everything else with the red boat.
Hmm.
And this picture, I found this picture, a photograph that somebody else had taken, and I was really, really loved it. And this picture is 40 by 60. It's actually hanging here in right next to me. And I used all of my drafting skills what I did is I copied the picture on a black and white, uh, um, black and white photograph and I plotted it. I had to make grids and everything else. And the picture turned out really nice. It's not exactly like the original. I did add a few different things to it. But what got me the most was the reflection in the water and the bright light coming in on the left side. The reason the bottom part, and a lot of people ask me about that, is brown, is that reflections in water are usually darker than the what they're reflecting. And if you're in stained water, you can get this look as well. And it's from observation that I did that to make sure that it looked that way. But it's a very striking painting. It's still up for sale if somebody wants to buy it. It's a large painting. I had a lot of people said they like it, but they say they can't find a place big enough to put it. But I have a theory about large paintings in small rooms, and if you can get it on the wall and there's nothing really other than windows or anything else interfering with it, it could be the topic of the room. And you should never be afraid of buying a large painting, because I had a real large painting in a small room one time, and it just worked perfectly. This one here, I was watching TV and they had these Scottish castles on TV. So I snapped a picture, and it was completely different than what this painting is, but I used that castle picture I took as a reference. And this here's Elandon Castle in Scotland. I managed to get the sky and the mist up in the hills and everything else coming down. And the original picture was of the castle is actually black, but it's not really black. It is a beige rock. It's actually probably a little bit lighter than what I got. And I had trouble trying to get the details in it. So I went online and checked out the castle and everything else. And then one of my people in our paint dinner, Wednesday paint dinner, a girl named Jackie, she had been there, and so she brought in her pictures, and I managed to get some of the details that were lost in the original painting and everything else. And then I tried to get the reflection. And this is a unique castle in that it has the little arched bridge going across on the water, but it's a beautiful spot. There's other pictures of the castle from the other side. The tall part of the building is on the far side of the castle itself. But I really enjoyed that one. This one here, I call this Night Crossing. This one was in the when I won the Mirror Appreciation Award, and this here is from one that I made up. Actually, I sort of got my wife to take a picture of me leaning against the banister rail, and I just remember seeing a picture similar to this of people going across on the boat in the wintertime, or not necessarily the winter, but going across at night. And I sort of made up the thing. I got this lady in the background that might know this guy that's smoking a cigarette, but we're not sure what the relationship or whether, and that was one of the things, one of these mysterious type things. But I really enjoyed doing this painting. It was something I could make up. And this here is me working at night again on the police job. And this is an oil painting I did, and it was from a photograph I took while I was working. And it was painted over an older painting, and some of the paint didn't stick well. So I really don't offer it for sale, but it was one of my favorite paintings I did at night. And I just try to get that whole atmosphere at night. And this here I call the Edmund Fitzgerald. In 1975, around November, I was applying for a job on the police force in Thunder Bay. And anyway, I was going up to Thunder Bay for this interview, and probably on the day that the ship went down, I was driving from Sault Ste. Marie up to Red Rock, and I spent the night at my uncle's house in Red Rock. And in the morning, he had the news on, and the news said that the Edmund Fitzgerald had sunk. Now, go a couple years later, and we got the famous song of the Ballad of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I was doing a painting, a large painting of the Lake Superior at that time. And I was referring to some of my photographs, and then the song came on, and it sort of caught me. And I remembered, well, I'm going to just do this painting. I'm going to put the Edmund Fitzgerald in there. And it's quite a large painting. It's 48 by 60, and it's very dark. But what I did is I bisected the water. You can see the little bit of sliver of light on top of the water coming from the sun that's way above it. And then when you bisect it, you see the light rays go down. And right at the, you can't see it in this picture, but right at the bottom is the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's right down there in the very bottom. And it's broken up in two pieces. One of my favorite too. If I don't sell it, I'm happy to keep it too. This picture, it was in that show as well. This is my grandson, Declan. Being a kid, he was playing around. They had a table right by the window and bright light coming in. I caught this picture of him, and I did twig it a little bit. That's what he looked like back in the day, and I call that rubbing the rim. I used to do that too, where you'd wet your finger and you rub the rim of the glass and make it hum. This one, this painting is now his. I gave it to him for Christmas. And this here picture is a real large picture. It's 48 by 60 as well. And it's got probably an 8-inch frame around it. It's up in above my dining room area. And it was a picture I saw of a polar bear. And this was done quite a long time ago. And my neighbor had this old painting that he had, and it was one of those gigantic paintings that you buy at the old art shows and stuff like that. Anyway, I painted right over this other painting, and I saw this polar bear, and it struck me how he was swimming in the water and everything. And he's about life size there. The head on him would be about the same size. But it's one of my favorite paintings. I enjoyed that one. And speaking about monotypes, and this is one of my monotypes that I did during the 90s. This one I did a lot of these. A lot of it is from glass. I painted on glass, and I cut out cardboard cutouts of the jets and everything. And I did this here sort of like a bombing run and that. But it's one of the things. I did a lot of military things. I did them with aircraft carriers and things like that. And it was just building everything up. And this is what's considered an original print, but it's a whole series of original prints. And this one turned out really nice. I really enjoyed doing that one. And this here is an oil painting I did driving across Canada. That's what you see when you're out in Saskatchewan. That's a 24 by 30 painting I did. And I just needed to get that 1-point perspective in there. And this is one of my life drawing classes when I was in the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. And this was just one of the models that we did. This was done on a manila paper, and it was a grease pencil type medium that I used. I still have that painting. And when I worked at Molson's, that's when they were putting up the CN Tower. And I did acquire a photo similar to this, and I made it up. Being an airplane buff and everything, I loved helicopters and everything else. And so this would be the CN Tower being topped off by the Sikorsky Sky Crane helicopter. And then my wife Sarah said that she wanted me to not hang it out in the open too much because it made her dizzy. But the contrast and everything was there, and I really enjoyed this one. My son has this painting now. This here is one of the life drawings I did from way back. Um, like this picture is 50 years old or more, you know. Uh, it's it's been around a long time and the paper is getting very brittle. What I do now is I try to save them by mounting them on canvas or mounting them on wood panel. And the way I do it is I'd have to spray the picture itself very delicately, spray it, and so that I can apply acrylic medium and actually glue the picture right back into onto the wood panel or something that's a little more sturdy. And I managed to save a few of them that way. And this one I haven't done that to yet, but I might be doing it soon. And this is another one similar. The paper on this is just so it's all newsprint and it's old newsprint and it's very delicate. You touch it, it'll crumble and you have to be very careful handling it. And it's a nice painting or drawing. I don't want to lose it, but I'd like to be able to get it mounted and maybe pass it on to somebody. And this is another trip up north, moose hunting time and all that. Oop. Um, that's an oil painting too. It doesn't want to stay there. I got that hanging in my living room right now, but it's right looking across near Nipigon, Ontario. And it was in October, and there was one of those big fierce snowstorms that came across, and you can still see the color of the trees and everything in the foreground tree area and that. But it's just magnificent country up there. It's one of the best places for viewing landscape. And this is a sumac. Um, I just they just look like fingers, all red fingers hanging down when you see them in the fall. And so anyway, this is one of the ones I worked on. I passed this on to somebody that allowed me to go and hunt on their property. So I barter things sometimes, you know, and it's I just appreciated them, and this one lady just loved this painting, and I figured, well, she's got to have it, so I gave it to her. Now this picture here, if you Google San Andres Island, you'll see a picture just like this. This here is a shipwreck that ran aground probably 50, 60, 70 years ago. And I I took my camera and I had to wade through water up to my chest to a little key and I got out the end of the key and I lined myself up with this ship and I took this picture of it and I painted it. The whole background on this picture when I first painted it was I painted a ground with red paint, and this turned out really nice. And I tried an experiment with the water where I mixed 1 part water, 1 part medium, and 1 part white paint, and I squirted it in a little bottle out onto the thing, and then scraped it with a hard card, and to get that effect of water. I'm always looking for different ways to do the effect. And the green, the emerald green in the water turned out really well. And actually having the red background actually enhances that and makes it sparkle. That one's still for sale. It's around. And this is another night scene. I was playing around with this one here. This was Jane and Finch. And so what I did is I actually went out and took a lot of night photos. And that's a bus going by that's all blurred on the left side and everything else. And that's a 1 point perspective thing. And it turned out well. That one sold. I ended up selling that. So it shouldn't be in that category right now, but it's gone. And this one sold too. My neighbors next door to me, they love canoeing, and they went down the Mississippi River, which we were on, and they came upon these otters in the water, and he snapped a couple pictures. This friend of mine, Jeff, does wonderful wildlife photographs. He goes on excursions to Africa, and he's got all sorts of animals from their pictures that he's taken. He's a very good photographer. So he had this picture up in our community center hall, and I asked him if I could paint it, and he said, "Yeah, sure." So I painted this picture, and it took a while for it to sell, but I had it in the Kingston General Hospital Art Gallery. They have a corridor that they let people hang, and I hung this picture in the corridor, and it didn't sell. And then when the show closed, a friend of mine had seen it, and she wanted it, and she bought it off me. It's actually Anne Corrette's daughter, Louise, bought this painting. I ended up painting another one, almost exactly like this, a little bit smaller. I got a call afterwards from a guy. He said that he was a courier and he made a lot of deliveries at the Kingston Hospital, and he saw this picture and he really liked it. And when he phoned me up, he said, I told him it was sold, and then he says, "Oh, geez," he says, "I really like that picture." So I did another one for him. I'm starting to get a little tight here. But anyway, I painted a second one for him and he loved it, and he bought it. And I painted another one for the guy that took the picture, and he likes it too. Now, just give me a second here. I need a drink. Okay. This picture, I call it the Storm's Edge. This, with my camera, I was down at Westport, and they had a real black, dark thunderstorm go through, and the sunlight was shining right into the clouds. And this boat was moored there, and and the bright sunlight hit the boat. And I took this picture, and I ended up painting two paintings like this. And one, my cousin had bought the other one I did, and this one I still have right now. But it's one of my favorite paintings, trying to capture the rain coming down like that, and the colors and everything else. I love the contrast. That's what attracted me to it. And this here is Buttermilk Falls, which is not is which is actually here in Snow Road in the springtime. And I went up there and took a lot of pictures of this falls, and this is what I came up with. It's basically what it really looks like. I wanted to get the rushing of the water and everything else, and I think this one turned out really wonderful. And this here is called Caitlin's Canoe. I came across this picture from a book that this family that loves canoeing. They were my neighbors too, and they were on the Mississippi River. And I was looking at their family book that they had of all of their excursions, painting and everything else. And they had this picture in the book, and I asked the owner that if I could use that as a reference. So I took my phone, and she said, "Yeah." I took out my phone and took that picture on my phone, and then transferred it. I got a print of it and everything else, and this is what I came up with. I just loved how the reflection in the water wasn't, and this young girl, Caitlin, is so delicately handling the paddle. Yep, we're back. How's our time?
It is 8:01. I
Oh
think
my gosh.
but we've gone through the two big albums, and there were a few extra that you wanted to show. Do you still want to do those, or do you want to take questions now?
Why don't I take questions? And I didn't think I'd be this long.
You're a chatty guy there, Fred.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's wonderful. That's what we need in this series. Okay, I want to show a gallery view now. There now. I don't know if everybody's seeing a gallery view now. I had a Fred pinned for a while there, but oh, I still do. Wait a minute. Remove pin. There. So if anybody would like to ask a question, Anchoret, you were going to say a thank you to Fred. Are you able to unmute yourself? It'll be down in the lower left corner. There.
Am I unmuted?
You are.
Hi, Anchoret.
Hello, hello, Fred. Nice to see you. My goodness, I enjoyed your photographs and your pictures. And I must say, the most exciting thing about listening to you talk is your enthusiasm and how much you enjoy what you do. I think it's inspiring to anybody to hear someone like you talk about your life, which is interpreted in your pictures and the stories about the pictures. I really loved hearing about the water and the boats and the people you see. And of course, I love the otters, which are hanging above my daughter's fireplace. They're very handsome, they're beautiful. But you know, I remember the very first show I saw of yours, and you had water at Bon Echo. And I have never ever seen a picture, a painted picture of water when you just felt you were out there swimming with the water around you. It was just amazingly watery. And I still feel I can see it today. I think I should come up and see if you've got any like that. But they're wonderful pictures, Fred. They really are. And I think you've inspired us all. And also, the picture of your life. You haven't just been sitting there painting. You've had an amazing life, going from Molson's to the courts to everywhere you went, you seem to have picked up inspiration. So I think you've inspired us all, Fred. You certainly inspired me. And I'd like to thank you very much on behalf of Mira. Wonderful talk. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you too. I do appreciate it. Mira's been very good to me, and I'll be joining soon again. I belonged to Mira a couple times.
Oh, you don't have to join. One of our
Get a free membership.
You get a free membership.
Yeah. For doing this talk. That's
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, that's all the big bucks you're gonna
I'm captured then, eh? Well, thank you very much.
Anyway, it was lovely, and thank you, Fred.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everything you've done too, Anchoret. You're a wonderful person.
Well, I do it because I enjoy it.
Does anyone have a question? Oh, Jean. All right. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Right. So thank you, Fred. I really, really enjoyed everything that we saw tonight. And I appreciate how your life experiences have really influenced your art. But I do have a question, and I hesitate. I am not an artist, but I have done some classes in watercolor. I have done quite a bit of watercolor, but I really feel that for me, there are some images that just lend themselves to watercolor, maybe floral, those kinds of things. But there are some images that really lend themselves to oil. So I'm trying to shift. Sorry, I'm trying to shift. And my question for you is, so you've done watercolor, you've done oils, you've done acrylics, how do you make that shift? I want to shift to oils, but I've got water mixable oils, and I'm trying to learn, like, it's different brushes, it's different techniques. How do you make that work?
Well, I spent a lot of time trying to hone my techniques and things like that. And I think it goes right back to the time when I was in drafting in high school. We had a great teacher that showed us how to think outside the box, sort of thing. And a lot of it comes down to when I'm traveling around and I see something, I don't just look at it and say, "Oh, that's nice." I also look at how can I paint that image?
Mm.
That's one of the big questions I ask myself when I see something that inspires me. For me to take a camera and take a picture of it, um, I could have that image, and I do have some in my collection of photographs that I want to paint someday. And there's a couple in there that I ended up painting after years of not even looking at it again, and then someday I come across it and I pick up that inspiration. I also want to know what technique, what medium, and what I want to draw out of that painting, and that's what I look for. Um, I also am big in believing that I got to communicate with people who might see what I'm doing and would see my artwork. I want to communicate some kind of thing. I got a little saying here that I what I strive for, and I wrote in my artist statement. I says I want to show people what has influenced me over the years. My objective is to create artwork that is well crafted, done with a good eye, artwork that works technically and is visibly desirable and will tell a tale that will emotionally move the viewer. This is something that I came up with about a couple of years ago, and it's something that I believe that's inspires me to keep going and keep painting. All these other jobs I did, I enjoyed them, like being a police officer, doing court things, being a counselor, and all of that. But I managed to be able to separate them from my artwork. Um, One guy had an article about me, and I didn't like what he said. He says Fred uses art as a refuge from my police work. Is basically what he was saying. But that's not so. My artwork is what I do. It's what I get out of it, and it gives me fulfillment, and I enjoy doing that. And I also enjoy doing other things too. I'm not living in a box or like being an artist, strictly an artist. I'm a person. I have different views. I've done different things. I enjoy different things, and that's why um, I always work to make the best art I can. And that's my main goal right there is and I'm into realism now because realism is the hardest thing to produce.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for enjoying my painting the way you do, because that's where I get a lot of joy too.
Any other questions?
I have a lot more, but I don't think I should dominate. So maybe we'll connect. Maybe we'll connect, Fred. And yeah,
Whatever you want.
it's just been really fascinating for me to hear the comments that you made as we went through the slideshows.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you. This has been terrific.
Well, every bit of art that I do is a personal thing to me too, eh? I have a real personal connection to all of them. And I do enjoy the fact that somebody is willing to take something I created and hang it on their wall and look at it for the rest of their lives. So Gene, you're right there.
Margaret has a question.
Well, it isn't really a question. I just wanted to say that personally, I enjoyed every single one of your paintings because I worked in Toronto and I worked long days. So I saw Toronto at night in all sorts of weather, and you really captured it. It was just amazing. I married someone who grew up in Thunder Bay, and every summer we took a trip up there to visit his parents. And so I'm very familiar with the Sleeping Giant and Northern Ontario. Um, and I own a house in Ampa. So I've driven by I drive by your place on my way there. Um, well, it's on my route. So, but I must confess, I've never stopped in on one of the studio tours. So that's a goal of mine. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciated every single one of your paintings and your enthusiasm for everything you do. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing your paintings in person.
Thank you very much, neighbor. I didn't know you lived up in Ampa. You're a neighbor.
I live in Carlton Place and Ampa both. I work from both places, so I'm
Nice,
back and
nice
forth.
spot. Nice spot to be. Yeah. And thank you for your comment.
Uh, I have to say it's been a pleasure working with making the slideshows and working with your pictures. Just really different perspectives on so many different places and objects and animals and just a wide range of things that you've done pictures of. And you really bring an eye to them. A real talent.
Thank you very much.
So I think we've probably got the reticent. We've waited long enough for the reticent to speak up. um, Margaret took a few minutes, but she did. She did. Is there anyone else? Just wave your hand or unmute yourself if you're interested in asking another question. And if not, we'll. Oh, Jean, she's got another one. There you go.
So it's a heads up to you, Carrie. I think you rock. And if we think about community and community coming together and people making community togetherness happen, you're the queen. Thank you.
Oh, I think Anchoret's the queen. Yeah, she got this started. But thank you so much. That's really nice of you. That's exactly what my goal is, to build community. So
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. Um, it's nice to be able to have the comments that I got from you people about my artwork. It really beefs me up a little more. I'm right now I'm floating. I really thank you a lot for what you've done and all your efforts and the whole group and everything. I really enjoyed this.
oh, we enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. All right, I'm going to sign off now.
Okay.
Take care. It's been a
There,
pleasure.
bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.